Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Welcome back to college football, coast to coast college football pregame tailgate show. I'm the show, your host, Uncle Shally, Phil Shawcross, and a very special and a very welcome back to the top left corner to my Buckeye brother from another mother, and now officially Mr. Papa Duke's Buckeye, Mr. Cottrell Simpson. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, man. Of course, feels good to be back. Last week, was in the hospital for, the weekend there, so wasn't able to do the show, but got back home. Everybody's happy, healthy, things are going well. And I had to let them know before, I was feeding them this morning. I let them know. I was like, hey, Saturdays from like 10 to 12, during football season, not going to be with you. But after that, we're gonna get right back to it. We're gonna start watching some ball there. But I'm excited to be back.
So today is going to be his first Buckeyes game.
Yeah,
To break him in, get to break him in with a nice Purdue blowout. It's a good start for him.
And then tomorrow, we get to, as a Browns fan, get to watch him play the Jets. So
I feel so bad for him already.
To ease in.
You got the greatness of Ohio State, and then you got the Browns the next day.
I told him, I was like, Saturdays for football usually fun. Sundays not so fun. So you get your highs, your lows. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So teaching them lessons early.
Saturday is going to be the better day for him. Top right corner, as always, Mr. West Coast, Mr. Up Early, every Saturday do the show with us. Mr. I Black is back. Mr. Alex Elmore, Mr. Might have a sneaky good game on his hands today. We'll see. Mr. Alex Elmore, how are you, sir?
Man, I'm good. I was excited for today. It's football weather, in Iowa where the Ducks will be playing. It's cold here as well. I woke up in a great mood, ready to do the show. And then I was checking some news feeds, and I just saw a report that Decorian Moore may or may not have injured his ACL and been carted off the field at practice yesterday. There's no confirmed reports. Someone tweeted it out and then deleted the tweet about 30 minutes later. So nobody knows exactly what's going on. He's not on the injury report yet, nothing like that. But I'm a little nervous now. Though with the weather, I don't think they're going to throw the ball too much. It's still not the greatest news to wake up to.
I would say what time do you guys kick?
12:30 our time, so 3:30 there. So what was that, 5 hours?
You'll know about 2:00 because they'll have to put their last injury report out. So if he's not on it, then you'll know he's good.
Yeah, so that got me a little worried. But other than that, it's a beautiful morning for football.
It is a beautiful morning. Listen, we are officially in football weather. I love it. I've already been out today. All the leaves have changed colors around here. It's got it's just cool enough that you have to go to like a hoodie or a jacket, but you still know once the sun gets up, it's still going to be 40s or 50s. It's going to be perfect football weather later today. So as always, it's a big Saturday. I'm excited, even though we're off today. But let's get the show on the road. We got a big show. We're going to break the huddle as always. First college football playoff rankings have come out. We're going to discuss them and the wackiness that always involves them. We're also going to go through if the college football playoff started today, the bracket. We're all going to go through that and see who we think would make it to the end. Obviously, we'll recaps, previews, pick 'em, eliminator, the whole 9 yards like we always give you. So, Alex, a lot to do. Get us started, sir.
Shotgun, DC right, flip 90, dig on the center. Ready?
All right, well, welcome to Break the Huddle Weekly, where we go over all the top news from this week in college football. And obviously, as you can see, our top headline is the top 25 drops, but we're going to save that for dessert on Break the Huddle. We're just going to jump right in to Hugh Freeze is officially out at Auburn. This has been the year of coach firings, it feels like. And Hugh Freeze has been there for just over 2.5 years. He's got a 15-19 overall record at the university. And he's the 8th coach fired this year. Did you guys see this coming? Was this a move that maybe for me, for example, I thought he would at least be able to finish out the year. I didn't think they would let him go this year. I thought, if he had another season like this, that maybe we might be talking about it. But I didn't see Auburn's job opportunity coming open this early. Did you guys see this coming?
Well, I'll say this quickly because And Bill, I do want to give you your roses with it. Bill saw it coming a mile away. This was one of the jobs that Bill wanted to have when we had our discussions for the coaching carousel, like it being an opening there. Now, with that said, though, me personally, I did think he was going to finish out the rest of the season and then that ultimately be a discussion there. But if you're Auburn, you have to look at it like this. You brought in Deuce Knight, who is a 5-star quarterback. He's a true freshman this year. You also brought in Jackson Arnold from the transfer portal, who was a former 5-star. Now, regardless of your feelings of what Jackson Arnold truly is, I mean, that's two quarterbacks that should, on paper at least, give you the idea that you should be winning football games. And seeing how the Georgia game went specifically, with them, it's like, all right, this Auburn team can't compete. They're just not winning football games. So, the talent is there. And even the game against Oklahoma, like that was another really good game that Auburn just ultimately couldn't get it done. So I think, if you're Auburn, you have to look at it like teams in the SEC are passing us by. Like you can't let Oklahoma be better than you consistently. You can't let Ole Miss be better than you consistently. So I think this is a move that doesn't really surprise me because Auburn is one of those places where football is king and, they need to be putting out a winner there. So doesn't necessarily surprise me. I will say, I think this is shaping up to be one of the craziest off seasons we've ever seen in college football with the job openings that are there, because I don't think there's ever been, at least to my memory, a off season where this many high profile jobs are out there. Because no matter how you look at it, Auburn is a top 20 job in the country. And right now we have Florida, LSU, Penn State. So that's 4 top 20 jobs in the country opening at the same time. Like, I feel like we've never had that in college football.
I would agree with you. I can't remember the last time there's been that many marquee, kind of like you said, top bona fide top 20, top 25 jobs open. And I think there's still more to come. I don't think Luke Fickle makes it out of Wisconsin, which is a very good job. But yeah, I mean,
they backed him. They backed him a couple days ago. AD
Yeah,
came out and said he's going to coach 2026.
Yeah, that was just crazy to me.
We'll see. But I agree with what Cottrell said. I think the biggest thing that's pushing this, quite honestly, is exactly what Cottrell just talked about, and we've talked about for the last couple of weeks. There's so many big name programs that are open that if this is the move you're going to make, you can't be 2 months behind on your coach search. So I think they had to get rid of them now, and they're going to go out there and they're going to be making the same phone calls to the same kind of group of people that I think Penn State and LSU and everybody else have been making. So I don't think they wanted to be left behind. Like Cottrell said, Auburn's a good job. I don't think they want to play second fiddle to anybody. That is a football school, and they're staying there. It's just they haven't been met for a while now. And the crazy thing was Hugh Freeze used to be where Ole Miss, and that's where he got in trouble, I believe.
Yep.
That's how they ended up with Lane.
Yep.
I thought Hugh Freeze was a good coach. He got in trouble, and then after a couple years, he went somewhere. And then when Auburn hired him, I actually loved it. I thought that was a great hire for Auburn to take a little bit of a chance and take a little bit of the publicity hit of bringing him. But I thought he was a great fit for Auburn. And I think you said his record's 15-19. That's not cutting it, man. I know the SEC's tough. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think it helps either now when you see Vanderbilt winning 7, 8, 9 football games a year. Missouri's winning 7, 8, 9 football. Like now, if you can't win 6 games at Auburn, and I promise you, they have better resources in those 2 schools and pump way more money into the football program. That athletic department office and their boosters, they're not going to stand for that. And he got, and he got whacked. So it's another huge job opening that's out there. It's going to be really interesting to watch, like Cottrell said, because I think you have to remember there's a domino effect of all this. So, we're going to move coaches from one college, and then there's going to be a whole nother group of colleges that
lose their coach.
That lose their coach. So, and then you have a whole nother group of kids that are going to go to the portal because they lost their coach. This is going to be a crazy offseason for sure.
Well, like I said, Hugh Freeze, man, he's been there for his 4th season. He was in the SEC before at Ole Miss, before he went to Liberty, and then came back to the SEC here at Auburn. But like you guys said, that's another top-notch program. that has a coach opening. Here's the thing, guys, I want to talk about real quick is he's still owed $15.8 million. Obviously, that's chump change to compared to some of these other contracts. But how do we get away from all this guaranteed money? It feels like college football coaches like need to do well, get paid, and then they can stop caring, and they're just going to walk away with millions and millions of dollars. Like, what needs to change?
You don't get away from it. I mean, I think that's just the landscape of where college football is. And you want these guys, like you want to take a swing and get Hugh Freeze, because I think on one side of it, like, yeah, he underperformed there and, you know, he ultimately got fired for it. But let's say he had turned Auburn into a marquee school and they had been in the top 25 every year since he's been there. And now that LSU's open, like they're thinking about hiring him and things like that. Like, you have to give these coaches essentially incentives not to leave. And if you don't want to put yourselves in this position, you got to do a better job of finding the right guy for your program. So I don't think there's truly a way to, you know, circumvent this ultimately, because if you want to have like these big time coaches and you want to outbid all these schools, like you have to find a way to sweeten the pot, and that guaranteed money or that buyout is ultimately going to be that. So like I look at LSU, for example. Brian Kelly probably was not leaving LSU to go to a better job, because better jobs in LSU's truly don't open. And if you're doing that good of a job at LSU, like that's a spot where you stay. So they have that huge buyout in there so that he doesn't ultimately go anywhere else. But on the flip side of it, it protects himself, because it's like, hey, if I don't meet the standard here, I still want to get paid. Like, why would I leave Notre Dame to come to you guys if I just know you guys can fire me and I lose out on a whole bunch of money there? So I think it's just the world that we live in college football. And I truly don't see a way that you can find a way to change that, just with the competitiveness of like the dog eat dog kind of world there as far as like hiring these coaches.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like the trend you've seen, you know, starting to happen in NFL football before, where you know nothing was ever guaranteed, or a small portion was, and all these players are like, listen, I'm going out and playing every week, and you know you want all this production, but if I'm giving you that, then I want the security of knowing like I'm getting all this money guaranteed no matter what I do. Um, I think there's that side of it. I think the one thing that you're going to see that's probably going to change. I think you're going to see, you know, you see a lot of coaches kind of like mid tier. If they know they're kind of on the upward track, they don't have huge buyouts, because they want to be able to, if they want to be able to get out of a contract, they want to be able to go. And if you're at Tulane and LSU calls, you're like, I don't want to get stuck here because LSU doesn't want to pay, you know, a $25 million buyout. That I think is the one thing that I feel like schools might start changing to protect themselves on the other end a little bit, but we'll see how that goes. But you know, Cottrell hit all the big points for me. It's just a lot of protection and security, and you know, and again, if you're paying me, if you're giving me the keys to LSU, and you know, and I perform and do what I'm supposed to do, then you know, I want my guarantee money, not like, hey, I won you 2 championships in 10 years, but now we're having a couple down years, and you're like, you can just get rid of me for nothing. So, you know, that would be kind of an extreme case. Don't get me wrong, but it's like anything else, man. If you do it, you do it well. Don't do it for cheap. So, it's kind of a motto to have in anything you do in life.
Yeah, can't argue with either of you there. We're going to keep this ball rolling, though. Hugh Freeze is out of Auburn, and Dabo Swinney, who's not having the greatest season so far this year at Clemson. They were at national championship aspirations, but now he's being fined $10,000 for criticism of an official after his team's loss to Duke last week. He took issue with the play in particular. He took issue with was a 4th and 10 pass interference call on Duke's game-winning drive that ended up extending the drive. Obviously, it was 4th and 10. It extended the drive, allowed Duke to score, allowed Duke to win the game. Dabo Swinney was a little bit critical of the officials after the game, even saying that he wouldn't be surprised if he got fired after that game. Is that $10,000 fine? Like, I don't know if you guys watched the game or not, but is this just like the beginning of the end for Dabo Swinney and Clemson? Like, are we seeing, like, is Clemson going to be available after this year?
I think Dabo has done so much for that school. I think it's gonna be a really careful kind of fine line about how they go about doing it. I promise you, there's people within that program that probably want him gone. But I think the higher ups that have been behind him, he has brought them 2 national championships. He made them literally, extremely relevant to the point you could argue, other than Alabama, they were the most successful team for an Ohio State. You would put in that conversation too, but they were one of the top 2 or 3 teams for a decade and a half. That carries something, and there's a lot to be thankful for there with Clemson. So I don't think it's as easy as calling a meeting and firing him. Whereas I think there's a lot of discussions that have to go on between a lot of different people there. I think if they want to kind of force him out, I still think they'll let him do it the way he wants to do it. I mean, and agree. And don't get me wrong, Dabo can be, a little bit cranky sometimes. So he might just walk in and be like, "Well, then fire me," and they'll do what they have to do. But I think if they really want to get rid of him, and he doesn't agree with it, I still think they'll give him the option of saying he's stepping down and whatever to save face. I don't think Clemson wants to just straight come out and say they're firing Dabo. Um, but that being said, he's been very outspoken about he's not like the state or the direction in which college football has been heading the last couple of years. Many would agree with him, and there's a lot of things he says that I agree with. I don't know if he's at the point where he's just so angry at the way it is that it's affecting his coaching. If it's just, maybe the game's passed him by a little bit, maybe he doesn't have the passion for it. I think it can be a big mixture of things. And maybe it's time for him to step away for a couple years and, go do TV and make a bunch of money doing that way. But he just doesn't seem, to me anyway, he doesn't seem like he's enjoying it. And he just seems, I think, a little bit bitter at this point about where the game is. And if you're Clemson, again, if that's a change you're going to make, you got to do it sooner than later, because Clemson's a good job. So, I mean, he's made it a great job, but you're going to want your guy. You're going to want pick of the litter. So you don't want to be picking the guy that went through the other top 5 interviews and didn't get hired, and then you're forced to hire that guy. So it will be very interesting to see if and when he does leave and how they handle it. That is what I'll be curious to see.
So I don't want to compare the two because Dabo's obviously not the GOAT of college football, like as far as coaching goes. But to me, this feels very familiar with the New England Patriots situation with Bill Belichick. Like, you were great for all these years, you could really do no wrong. Like, you've been to the top of the mountain so many times, and you made this program what it is. And then the tail end of it just starts to spiral, and you ultimately get to a point of no return. I think Clemson is headed that direction with Dabo. I will say, though, I don't think there's any chance that Clemson can fire Dabo. I think if it ever comes out that Dabo's not coaching anymore, they're going to phrase it as a mutually agreed and to part ways, like that they're not seeing eye to eye there, just because what Dabo has done for that university and, what he's brought as far as winning goes to the program there. But with all that said, though, I don't know if you guys actually saw the play that Dabo got fined about, but it was egregious. Like, I fully understand Dabo going to the media and blasting the officials after that happened. It was 4th and 10, like Alex said. Game was literally over. Like, Clemson, they get the ball back. They just, they kneel on it 3 times, and that's game over. So I can 100% understand where Dabo is coming from. The problem is it feels like crying over spilled milk because Clemson is consistently losing football games. Like, you lose to SMU. Obviously, you lose to Duke. Like, your college football dreams your college football playoff dreams are over with. Like, that's not happening this year. You're ultimately going to lose Klubnik next year to the draft. You're going to lose 2 studs on your defensive line to the draft. Like, this was supposed to be the year where Clemson gets over the top, and that's ultimately not going to happen. I think if you're in Clemson's situation, though, like, it is as good of a job that Dabo has made Clemson. I don't know if it is, like, if Clemson becomes open, I think all the 4 that we've previously mentioned are all better jobs than Clemson. Clemson is what it is right now because of Dabo. Like, I don't truly think that Clemson is that upper echelon of college football programs there. So yes, it may be time to get a fresh face in there and get rid of Dabo, but at the same time, like, W knows better than W don't. So I just don't know if someone else can come in and even have that kind of success there, even close to the success that Dabo had, while he was there. But I ultimately think we are headed towards that direction. I just don't think it happens this year.
Okay, respect. I just want to kind of see what you guys thought about that. Yeah, I mean, it took him so long to embrace the transfer portal and the NIL spending. Oh, I feel like it just took him so long to kind of like took him an additional 2 years to kind of start embracing it and really kind of like using it as a recruiting tool. So I feel like he's a little bit behind from everybody else. And I feel like that might be a good opportunity for Clemson to move on, especially if they finish the season without being bowl eligible. I think that would be the icing on the cake for me as a Clemson fan and Clemson athletic director. I think that might be something where we need to have a conversation. I do like what you said, though, about it being more of a mutual separation than a firing, because he has earned that. Now, I know I said that next we're going to talk about the top 25, but I did want to bring up one quick thing that happened in a game last evening. I don't know if you guys were able to catch the USC Northwestern game, but I got to get your guys' opinion on this. Did you guys hear about the fake punt that USC pulled off?
Yes, I saw
Okay.
it.
For those of you that did not know about it, they put in, I believe it was a third string quarterback, Sam Heward. He normally wears number 7 jersey. They put him in the punter's number 80 jersey, put him out as the punter, and then did a fake pass to convert on the 4th down to make it a first down. To me, that seems like it should be a penalty. To me, that seems like it's one thing if, you put the third string quarterback out there as the punter with his number 7 jersey on and no one happens to notice it. But the switching of the jerseys to look like you're another player, I feel like that's a bit Bush League. What's your guys' opinion on that?
So it is, but it can't be a penalty because they made everyone aware of it. Like, it's on Northwestern to not know. You shouldn't. In college football, it's weird because players can change their jersey numbers all the time because you don't want the same number of player on the field. At the same time there. So, like, let's say if you have a number 7, like, let's say in this case, the backup quarterback, he's number 7. Well, if they have like a corner that plays on, their punt team and he's one of their gunners to go get the ball, you got to put them in like a superficial jersey. You just throw it over top of them. You see the guys, they have like the 3XL jerseys on. So college football is weird in the fact that you can declare different players, different numbers, and the officials say it. Ultimately, I agree. Like, I don't like it. Like, I hope this isn't something that becomes a thing where you have to be listening out for, the jersey switches and things like that. Like, to make sure backup quarterbacks aren't throwing fake passes and things like that. But ultimately, though, like in this specific situation, like it can't be a penalty because USC has to declare it. And the refs have to announce it. Like, they'll go out on the speakers and say, hey, number 7 is now wearing number 80, for this possession there. I don't like it, but I wouldn't call it a penalty because, USC does have the right to, I guess, essentially do that.
I don't like it. I know it's within the rules. I guess I'm kind of agreeing with Cottrell. I would like to see to the point where I guess you can't do it. I think it's a little bit like if they're announcing it at that point, I feel like why do you have to make them change jerseys? So I think it's just a little in the gray area for me. Reminds me of Mighty Ducks too, but can't be hiding Russ and goalie equipment like that. I just don't think it's right. But that's where I'm at with it. I think they should clear it up a little bit. Because again, if you're in the middle of a game and they go, so and so is, and you're like, if that doesn't click right away that he's the third string quarterback, I mean, I hate to say it, like when you're prepping all week for these schools, if you're on the defense, you're not looking who the third string quarterback is. Like, So it's I think again, I think there's just way too much leeway there for the punting team or whoever, and um, I think there's a way to probably get rid of it and still be able to do what you want to do.
Not to mention, like if the ref tells the opposing team, like, "Hey, third string quarterback is putting number 80 on," like I feel like you should know there's a fake coming, unless this is
Well,
something that's revealed
But
at the
see, I don't,
beginning
I
of the
well,
don't,
they
but
game.
don't
see, I
say
don't, they
say
don't
the
say that.
positions. They just say,
Yeah,
number 8, number 7's wearing number 80 this play. But that's literally all they come out and say.
I guess for me, common sense would be, okay, cool. Where's number 80? He's the punter. You mean like for me,
Yeah.
my brain would be like, okay, there's a guy wearing a different number. Who won?
But
Who is he? 2, where's he at?
so I understand that, but in college football, like it happens so much, and I would say 95% of the time, it's strictly because you have two guys wearing the same number on your, kickoff, punt, because this usually is special teams where it happens. And you have guys wearing the same numbers, and they just have this de facto like random jersey that's big as hell that they just throw on top of everything, and so it just happens so much that you probably don't even think twice about it. And in this case, USC used it to their advantage.
I guess you're gonna be thinking about it from now on. Anyway,
Absolutely.
I just wanted to kind of bring that up just because I watched the game last night. I watched it happen. I saw a bunch of reports this morning about people talking about it and how it was kind of bush league. So I just want to kind of get your guys' opinion on it. But let's get into the meat and potatoes of Break the Huddle this week, and let's take a look at the first top 25 college football playoff rankings that have officially dropped.
morning,
Boom.
Gene.
Good morning, sir. But here we go. The top 25, the first official, kind of a lot different than the coaches poll in some aspects. But
Yep.
let's just get your guys' opinions here. Obviously, Bill and I last week we kind of gave our predictions as far as who would be number 1, who would be number 1 through 12. Some of us even thought Indiana might even jump Ohio State in that first college football playoff polls. What's your reaction, Control? Let's start with you since we didn't get a chance to talk to you last week.
So as a whole here, I think you can nitpick some of the rankings, like Oregon being at 9. Like I think that's a little rude. I think that's a little low for them. And any chance I get to take jabs at Oregon, I'd love to do so. But I do think seeing them at 9 was a surprise there. Also, seeing Texas at 11 is very rich for me. That's way too high. I get it; they're coming off of a good win, but at the same time, like I've seen Texas play for the last month and a half, and if you're telling me right now that they're the 11th best team in the country, I just can't believe that you're saying that. And I understand why they have to be there because it's one spot ahead of Oklahoma, but I'm looking at a Virginia team that only has 1 loss. I'm looking at a Georgia Tech team that's coming off of 1 loss. I just don't know how you can justifiably put Texas that high. But as a whole, though, I think the committee did a really good job of putting together a list of, top 25 schools. Now, could there have been a couple of snubs here and there? Sure. But showing love to Washington at 23, showing love to Pitt at 24. Even Iowa coming in at number 20. Like we hadn't seen them in the AP poll at all. So
I've been calling for it for weeks.
I think as a whole, the committee did a really good job of the teams. I think you can nitpick certain pieces of it, but as a whole, I actually think this is a much, much better poll than what the AP had been putting out week after week.
Bill?
I don't necessarily disagree with any of the teams being in here. I think Iowa being 20 is kind of rich. They don't have a signature win. I'll say the same thing I said Wednesday. I think there's no consistency, as there never is, about how we're judging these teams. Like you could tell certain teams are getting judged by an eye test by certain people, and then other people are judging it by what's on a piece of paper. And it's again, I don't think there's just never any consistency across the board. Oregon's a perfect example. Oregon, I don't, I think if you've watched Oregon play, you can tell they're a very good football team. If you're going to look at them on a piece of paper, I guess you could justify them being 9 because they really don't have a signature win. But at the same time, the team right behind them has 2 losses. Their best win is a USC team that probably really shouldn't be ranked. And if you've watched them play a lot this year, especially last week, they went to Boston College and struggled mightily, but they're still 10th. Go right again to Texas after that. I don't know how Texas goes to 11 because they win a game, but the week before, they literally needed a miracle at Mississippi State on the road in overtime to win. So it's like, what is it? Like, is it brand? Is it what they do on paper? Is it the eye test? There's just no consistency anywhere. Um, Texas isn't the 11th best team in the country. Got bad news for you. If you're a Texas fan and you watch the show, sorry, they're not. Um, and then it's. I think Georgia Tech clearly got affected by the eye test. They have one loss and they dropped 9 spots. But if you watched a lot of their games, they were in a lot of tight games and they played a lot of tight games with teams that they probably shouldn't have. But how does a team like that get penalized and a team like Texas doesn't, or Notre Dame doesn't, but Oregon does? It's all over the board like it always is.
I think my biggest gripe is Texas Tech being in front of Oregon. And this is probably this is my reasoning why. Texas Tech, hold on, Control.
I'm just thinking about it. I'm just thinking about
Texas
it. That's all.
Tech's only loss this season is to an unranked Arizona State. Oregon's loss is to a number 2 ranked Indiana team. Okay. They also have 2 similar opponents in Oregon State and Oklahoma State. Oregon beat both of those teams by a wider margin than Texas Tech did. So just like you said, with consistency, Oregon should 100% be 8. I'm cool with them not being top 5, top 6. I'm cool with BYU being in front of them as BYU is undefeated right now. But Oregon in no way, shape, or form should be number 9. They should 100% be number 8. Like I said, their one loss is to a better program. And they have 2 similar opponents that Oregon beat by more than Texas Tech did. So I do see what you're saying, Bill, as far as consistency. I love the fact that Iowa. Oh, Cottrell, you got anything to say about my reasoning here with Texas Tech?
No, I mean, I came out and said that I thought Oregon should have been higher. I just don't know if Texas Tech is necessarily the one that I would jump. I mean, I'm looking at Ole Miss has 1 loss. Like, what makes Ole Miss's 1 loss better than Texas Tech's 1 loss or Oregon's 1 loss? And BYU is sitting there
Georgia?
undefeated. Yeah, it was to Georgia, and I get it. Georgia's a top 5 school. Like, at the time, though, at Oregon's loss, like Oregon's loss is the number 2 team in the country. So, like, is Georgia a better loss than Indiana? Absolutely not. On paper it is, like, brand wise, but the way this college football season has looked, Indiana has been an absolute monster and a force on the field there. But I was just thinking about the Texas Tech loss because I do think context matters there, because that was a game where Baron Morton didn't play and they were with their backup quarterback and they actually had to lead late in that one. And it was a game where Arizona State, well, I know they're unranked now. The reason why Arizona State is unranked because Sam Leavitt's been in and out of that lineup there. At the time, Arizona State was a top 25 caliber school because Leavitt was still playing then. So I do think losing by, I think they lost by 3 or 4. It was the last second touchdown that ultimately, ended up having them lose that game there. So I do think losing on the road by 3 or 4 points with your backup quarterback doesn't necessarily kill you in the rankings, which, side point is why I didn't think John Mateer should have played against Texas, because they wouldn't kill you for a loss, with the backup quarterback. But I think that's why Texas Tech is still getting that recognition, because when they've been fully healthy, they've looked like a top 10 team in the country. And I think, Oregon could be ahead of Texas Tech. Like, I wouldn't be mad at that, but I'm looking at it as that 6, 7, 8, 9 area. What has BYU done that's better than Texas Tech and Oregon, but not quite better than Ole Miss being undefeated there? Like, I would be happier if BYU was at 6, or if you had BYU at 9, right behind 2 one-loss teams that played really tough games, and are also just have that 1 loss there.
I think the scary thing for Oregon, if I'm being honest, is with the way these rankings already came out, they're telling you they definitively think Texas Tech is a better football team than Oregon. They're getting BYU later today. So if they beat by BYU, you're pretty much saying there's nothing Oregon can do at this point to jump Texas Tech. So that's very interesting to me. And again, I just have a hard time. Like, I would tell everybody in that room, if those two teams are playing on a neutral field, which one are you betting your life on? And I don't. I think there's gonna be a lot more Oregon Duck takers than Texas Tech takers. And I think Texas Tech's really good. Don't get me wrong, but to Alex's point, what are we using? Are we using eye test? Okay, I don't think you could say Texas Tech, if you're judging it by eye and the talent and the comparative teams they're playing, look better than Oregon. If you're looking at it on a piece of paper, Oregon's got better metrics. So how the hell is Texas Tech in front of them? I don't understand. And if they were flip flopped and they're playing BYU today, and then come next week, you go, oh, Texas Tech passed Oregon because they just beat the number 7 ranked team in the country that was undefeated. I can get behind that. I can understand that at least. But to have them there now playing another ranked team today is pretty much telling you, unless Texas Tech falls apart, Oregon's not getting in front of them. So that's a lot for me. And then I think. I mean, I think Notre Dame's gonna be really interesting. I think them being in a 10 spot, I think is very. I think it's very ironic because I think if you look at what Texas has left, Oklahoma has left, even Utah and Virginia, they all have better schedules left than Notre Dame by a mile. Like, what are they going to have to do to leapfrog them? Like that's I just I. Mm.
Before we move on, though, I mean, I think that's a interesting point too, though. Like, the ACC is really getting disrespected here. Now, I'm not going out and saying that Virginia, Louisville, or Georgia Tech are, national championship contenders there, but all three of those schools at this point just having one loss, and Louisville's one loss is against Virginia in overtime. So, like, outside of that, like they've run the table there. Virginia's loss came the first week of September. Like, since then, Virginia's had it absolutely rolling. And then obviously we know what happened last week with Georgia Tech there. But how are you telling me that these three teams there are behind a Utah team that has 2 losses? Like, I'm not necessarily saying that they're definitively better than what Utah is, but Utah having 2 losses, there's nothing on Utah's schedule that says, hey, they need to be here. Like, they haven't beaten any of those schools that are ahead of them in that top 12 area. So I just don't know what Utah has done to get the ACC schools as disrespected as they are. Like, in reality, I think Utah should be sitting probably at 17 or 18 right there with Miami. Like, that would be a better spot for me. Because I think these ACC schools, like, yes, I get that a lot of them came out of nowhere. Like, I wasn't expecting Virginia or Louisville to, be this high at this point in the season. I thought there was a possibility that they could compete potentially for a slot in the ACC championship game. But with that said, though, I just think it's crazy that, the ACC is kind of getting disrespected because it's not the schools that we're used to seeing at the top there.
I think your last sentence is what matters here. I think they're telling you the ACC is getting one team. I think the Big 12 is only going to get one team, maybe 2, depending on what happens today. I think what happens in that BYU Texas Tech game is going to be very interesting. If it's a very close game and BYU loses on the road in a very close game, they better not be outside the top 12 come Tuesday. That would be a travesty to me. I think you're only getting 1 or 2 maybe out of them. I think the ACC is getting 1. I think Notre Dame is not on stable ground, and I think they're going to try to do everything in their power to get either Texas or Oklahoma up in that top 12, because I think the Big Ten and the SEC both want 4 teams, and I think they're going to try to do, like, again, I don't mean to be a dick, but like USC, like for instance, like I'll use 19, 20, and 21 here. I have no problem. The only problem I had with USC being ranked was they lost the game, won a game, went on a bye, and then out of nowhere got put back in the rankings. I don't care that they're ahead of us. They beat us head to head. They should be ahead of us. We played like dog shit last week. Iowa came out of nowhere. They're literally claim to fame is they didn't get blown out by Indiana. That is literally their claim to fame to be in the top 25 right now. But why does that matter? Because, not to play devil's advocate or play conspiracy theory, but it sure as hell bumps up Oregon's resume if they beat a ranked Iowa team today at home. So, again, does that enough for Oregon to get over Texas Tech? We'll see. But you're going to start seeing even more and more of these teams come in for a week, lose, go right back out. But then it gives all these teams higher up that this committee is trying to force in stronger resumes. So I think the whole Virginia Louisville thing down the stretch is going to be crazy. But to your point, Miami kind of falling apart, and then Florida State not being a
Clemson.
factor. Clemson, who was in my top four,
Mine too.
falling apart. ACC is down, and it's down bad. I don't think they want any part of two ACC schools being in this playoff. I don't think they do.
They probably do not. But Control, I want to jump back on Utah for like 10 seconds that you were talking about. I actually have zero issue with Utah being ranked ahead of Virginia, Louisville. If you look at Utah's only 2 losses of the season, guess who they're to? Number 7, BYU. Number 8, Texas Tech. Those are the only 2 losses on the season they have, and they have 2 ranked wins as well. So they're 2-2 against top 25. So they did say at the beginning of the year that they were going to take the strength of schedule into account. And I think that's why Utah is ahead of that Virginia-Louisville matchup, because Virginia-Louisville's schedule does not add up to Utah's. 1 second, Bill, almost done. And Virginia has had 3 straight weeks of 1 possession games that they should have blown these teams out. So I think that they didn't have as of commanding of victories during their games as Virginia should have to be ahead of Utah. Bill, go.
No, I just
Go,
my one thing with that though is that you say they have 2 top 25 wins. This is based on the AP poll. Arizona State's not ranked right now. Cincinnati's not ranked right now, and I think that
Cincinnati would be ranked had Utah not beat them last week.
They would, yeah. I mean, sure. But my thing ultimately though is that the AP poll giving these teams like a strength of schedule or ranked wins and things like that, like it needs to be a thing of the past. Like we either need to just not have rankings, or we need to have the CFP put out their rankings week 1. Like we need them to, or put out their rankings week 2, whatever the case may be. We need it to only be the CFP putting out these rankings, in my opinion, because there is absolutely no way that you're telling me that, like, for example, even with us, like right now, Ohio State beat a Penn State team that was unranked, but like Oregon beat a ranked Penn State team. Like, I'm not saying they don't necessarily deserve to be there, like when it happened, but my ultimate thing is that you have schools that were in the AP poll that had no business being ranked at a point, and you're getting these ranked wins. Like, Bill, you talked about Iowa right now. I think Iowa's done enough to be ranked. Would I have them at 20? I don't know. But them being in the top 25, like I'm okay with that. They have like the one loss to Iowa State there. So like I'm okay with that. But as a whole, though, I just think that, one loss, like Louisville having only 1 loss and it just being to Virginia in overtime, like I would 100% have them ahead of a Utah team that, in my opinion, doesn't have like a marquee win.
Okay.
So I've said this before. Preseason rankings suck. I'm not going to the whole thing. I don't think any rankings should come out the week 4. And if AP and the coaches poll want to come out at week 4, and then that takes us to the college football playoffs, I'd be fine with that. I just don't, to your point, like Penn State one's a little tricky because Alex played them when they still had Allard and everybody was still there. Whereas if that was still the case when you played them, they're probably still ranked. So that's a tough one, but I totally get your point behind the whole point. And I agree, because it's been one of my biggest gripes with this from the get-go. Because the way the committees look at it, like these teams are still getting credit for that. So if you when they pull up Virginia, and again, I think Virginia's a pretty good team, but they pull up Virginia, they beat Florida State when they were ranked. Like, that's going to be a ranked win. Like, and Florida State's now fallen on their face as well. But like, these things are all going to matter. But to get back to the thing I want to talk about, Alex, you even said Utah is 2-2 against top 25. They have 2 losses against. They have a loss against the 7th and
8th.
the 8th ranked team. Under God's green earth, please explain to me how Notre Dame is ahead of them.
We'll see. Their losses were to Miami and who else?
A&M.
A&M. So they lost to the number 3 team in the country and the number 18 team in the country.
But I think Bill's saying like they got 2 better wins than what Notre Dame has.
So their losses are better now, and they have 2 better wins.
Yeah. Hey, man. I see what you're saying.
Bill low-key hates Notre Dame.
I do.
It's not
because
there's no low key about it.
He's been on this wave for 2 years now. Indiana's kind of gotten over that hump. Like I think they beat Oregon, and Bill's like, all right, Indiana may be the real deal this year.
Notre Dame. Yes. Listen. I wasn't wrong about Indiana last year, but I said this year they're better this year. They are a legit football team this year. Notre Dame was definitely better last year than they were this year, and they're still like. You can't watch Notre Dame if you watched every one of their games and been like, they are 100% a top 10 team in this country. Like, there's no way. And if somebody would just come out and be like, you know what, they're there because they have 8 gazillion fans. They'll get a home game. Our ratings will be through the roof. If somebody had the balls to say that, I would leave it alone because I'd at least be like, there it is. There it is. That's the reason they're there. We can all move on with our lives now. But their resume just doesn't compare to anybody. Like again, like we're talking about Texas. Texas has a better resume than Notre Dame does. They lost on the road week 1 to the number 1 team in the country. And who was their second loss to?
Florida.
They had a bad one. Yeah,
Florida.
Okay. Not great. But
they
again,
got Oklahoma win though.
Notre Dame's best win is USC, which is a team that borderline shouldn't be ranked. And if you watch that, and again, if we're going eye test, if you watch that game, there's no way you're coming out of that game being like, Notre Dame is definitely the better team than USC. USC came out with the craziest ways in the world to piss that game away. Like, it's just whatever.
And by the way, thank you, Justin.
What do you say?
Oh,
I meant to get to that earlier.
No.
Now,
Key. Good morning, Key.
Let's look at the important stuff.
The important stuff.
Yeah, and that is what the bracket looks like right now with the top 12.
Ohio State's just going to walk into the Final Four.
See, people were saying about Notre Dame's route. They got BYU and then Indiana. And then
Indiana is going to dog walk Notre Dame if that's a game. It'll be the reverse of last year.
I was going to say that would actually be cinema because that game happening a second time, like Indiana would.
In Indiana, Kurt Cignetti's putting 70 up on Notre Dame. 70. And he won't stop. That's what I like about him. And then I'll come on here. I'll be like, I was 2 for 2 years in a row. They are fool's gold. They might not be BYU, so don't get that twisted either. Like, their defense is atrocious.
For what it's worth, though, I think of the top 4 schools, I think, Bill, you said Ohio State would have a cakewalk into the Final Four. I think Ohio State would have the toughest journey to the Final Four, really to the championship. I think the one spot right now, like the one spot right now is not the position you want to be in because I think Oregon or Texas Tech, like they have the talent, like they can 100% compete with Ohio State, and then getting most likely Georgia or Bama that second game, like. I'd much rather see a BYU or Notre Dame or a Virginia or Ole Miss in the second round than seeing Oregon. And then of the two, like I'd much rather see A&M or Indiana and as opposed to seeing Bama or Georgia. And I don't care how well both of Indiana and A&M have been playing. Like I would rather see one of those 2 schools than Georgia or Bama.
This year, I disagree with that. A&M on paper is the best team in country. I
saw A&M. They let Arkansas score 35 on them.
Okay, I get it. But they could put 50 on anybody. I'm just saying if you're looking at metrics and everything else, if you take away what school it is and go A, B, and C, and wherever you put Texas A&M, they are the best team on paper. I don't want to play Indiana right now.
I mean, I don't want to, no, but I mean, we're going to see them in the Big Ten championship. So
correct. I'm saying you're
make it to the Big Ten championship.
Oh, here we fucking go.
What? What? I'm just saying. Anyway, no. Look, here's the thing. It angers me.
Have you watched them play?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and guess what? They have an Achilles heel in a school called Michigan. So
that's not going to affect them going to the Big Ten championship game.
Yes, it would.
And you want to know why it's the Achilles? Because they're playing very similar brands of football now. You do not have the defense to shut them down, and you don't have the offense structured the way to go beat Ohio State's defense. I'm just being honest.
You talking about Michigan?
No, I'm talking about you.
I'm talking about Michigan. Now. How did Oregon come up?
I think we've proven it the last 4 years that we can figure out how to stay in a game with Ohio State. Would you like to get in that conversation?
Yeah, we're 3-1 against them in their last four matchups against Ohio State.
Oh man,
playoff.
The one that mattered that was over 9 minutes into the second quarter.
I love how I'm here saying that Bill's Michigan team is the biggest threat to Ohio State, and Bill starts attacking me.
That is funny.
I'm giving him compliments, and he's ripping me a new one. Like I'm talking crap. Like I'm saying Michigan is going to beat Ohio State this year, and Bill's like, "You're not made to beat Ohio State."
Bro, listen, you want to know why? I'm going to tell you why. Because low key last year, I knew you guys were the only team that could beat them, and you guys let me down. Once they went into the Rose Bowl and beat the balls off you guys,
I knew they're winning that.
Facts. I was like, I only got 1 year. I got 1 year of this victory tour, and now they're going to win because you guys decided not to get off the bus. I would have been happy for you. That you guys were the team to beat them. As soon as you didn't show up, I was like, this is done. This is done. And I said it, and again, it's a weird comparison, but I've said it the last 2 years. The way they're playing right now reminds me of our team that won the national championship game. They throw the ball a little bit more, but they have a kick-ass defense now, and they revolve everything around that, which is what we've done the last 4 years. And now they're unstoppable. You had your shot last year. Dante Moore's not beating Ohio State. I'm sorry, he's not. I don't.
I didn't even talk about Oregon and Ohio State.
Well, we're talking about the bracket. I'm assuming you even get past Texas Tech. You're going to go into Columbus and you're going to get spanked again. That's what's going to happen.
Here's the thing that irritates me, though, is that I want Oregon to have a home game. And the committee put them at the first spot to not get a home game. And that irritated me.
Traveling down to Lubbock would not be a walk in the park. That's for sure.
Right.
Nah, I got cowbells and what do they throw? Quesadillas? I don't know. Tortillas.
So if we're being honest, though, obviously, in case people do not know, Memphis got absolutely dog walked against Tulane last night. Well, I guess it wasn't a dog walking. It was only a 5-point game, but Memphis was down 17 at halftime, and Tulane kind of took care of business. So Memphis is not going to be in that 12 spot. Okay. That 12 spot, I think, goes to the American Conference. Last year, it was pretty obvious that Boise State was going to get that at-large bid. It was pretty obvious to everybody, I think. This year, I think it's kind of wide open. Nobody
wants it.
Yeah, I mean, you got North Texas looking fantastic. You got Navy, who does go up against Notre Dame today. If Navy somehow makes a game out of that, or even finds a way to beat Notre Dame, Navy could be in that 12 that 12 hole come next week. And then who else?
If Navy beats Notre Dame today, and Notre Dame is ranked next week,
that'll never happen.
I'm whatever. I will be at the committee next week, and I will be throwing grenades through the window.
If Navy finds a way on that 12 line, I would pray that Ohio State loses to, I don't want to say Michigan. I would say like Rutgers or whoever the game is before Michigan, because I would want to be on the 5 line so bad. Like that would be the best possible spot for any team to be, because any of the top 11 teams are beating the dog shit out of Navy. Well,
I just no one underneath. I disagree with you on that though. You have the luxury
to play Navy in the first round.
Because he has the luxury of having that defense that's not going to get fooled by
Okay.
the option.
That's
some
fair
of these
enough.
other teams,
That's
like
fair enough.
Georgia's defenses look terrible at times this year. Like some of these other teams that are not used to seeing it, they will struggle against Navy.
But all you got to do,
That's
you
how
go up
Navy's
14
relevant every year.
You
That's
go
why
up
they're relevant
14
every year.
You go up 14-0 on Navy though, like you are going to beat
Game's over.
the balls off
Bro,
of
they
them.
throw the ball more this year, bro.
I mean, if they have to throw it enough though, where they're chasing points though, I love my.
They're
chances
not
there.
though. They're
And again,
undefeated.
I mean, yeah, but I don't care.
I'm just saying.
There's a reason why they're like 28-point dogs today against Notre Dame, who you've trashed basically the entire show. Like, there's a reason why. There's levels to it. So
just trash
there
the
is
entire show. I love it. But let's get into the meat and potatoes. All right, let's pretend.
Real quick though. To your other point though. If Oregon beats Iowa today, Texas Tech beats BYU.
Oregon will have home game.
Up.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. They're telling you that Texas Tech is better.
Yeah, because Oregon would jump up to 8. BYU, I'm assuming, would drop probably back to 9 or 10. Because I'm assuming they would stay ranked, losing to. Or I'm assuming they would stay in the top 12 if they lost to Tech and it was a close. That's true. And if it was a close game, I would like to think BYU would stay ranked. But that would probably put Oregon at 8, Tech at 7, BYU back at probably 10, and then
BYU would stay ranked. But I promise you, Texas would be in the college football playoff. If there was,
I was just gonna say, who does Texas have today?
Is it? But I think Texas would be the first team out.
Right now, they are the first.
They are the first team out right now.
Yeah, because they're at 11.
That's right. Them and Oklahoma.
No, they're the second team out right now, aren't they?
Hold on a second. Let's go back.
No, because Notre Dame is at 10, and they're the first team out right now because it's Virginia. Virginia's ahead of them, and then Memphis is ahead of them as it stands right now. So Texas is the first team out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Virginia's not ahead of them in the rankings. Virginia will go to 11.
Virginia doesn't matter about the rankings right now. Virginia is automatically in right now because they're the ACC leader.
That's my point. But who? Oh, never mind. There's a Big 12 team in there, right? Yeah. So there's only one getting kicked out right now.
Yeah.
Texas has a bye today, and then they play Georgia next week.
So no matter what,
Texas.
Let's see. No matter what, I think Texas is going to be in the college football playoff next week. I think they're going to be in the top 10 because regardless of who wins or loses the Tech BYU game, if Tech loses, then they got 2 losses, and then if BYU loses, I think they would push them behind Texas. So Texas is sitting in a spot where they have to do nothing, and they're going to control their own destiny moving forward.
I just don't know how you could justify Texas being ahead of a one-loss BYU if that game's competitive today.
It's okay, Bill, because they got Georgia and Texas A&M still on the schedule. So Texas is probably looking at 2 more losses. They're not going to be in the college football playoff.
But if they win, though,
that's true. If they beat A&M and they beat Georgia, I think we would all agree that they deserve to be there.
Yeah,
but they would have to play some great football in order to do that.
Well, Arch Manning looks like he knows how to play the quarterback position now. So
maybe they can.
I think Texas is one of those schools that, and I said this before, I was like, that defense is so good that if they ever figure it out on offense, like they're going to be one of those teams that kind of shock you towards the end there. The way it looked though for the first 8 games, I didn't think Arch would figure it out this year, but the way he looked, and he's coming off his best game as a college player. So I think Texas has a lot to hang their hat on right now.
Well, let's get into the meat and potatoes as we're through our first hour of the show. Let's start with you, Bill. Let's do our first rounds, and go ahead and, if you want to, throw in what team would replace Memphis in your brain when doing this.
Dude, it's going to be something like, again, I thought Boise State was kind of starting to catch the pack, and they had a terrible loss 2 weeks ago. They're out again. Memphis is not going to be in that spot, obviously, after what happened last night. Tulane's kind of back in the conversation. You have Navy, North Texas. It's I don't know if it's not that. It's got to be one of those teams. I don't know who else it would be.
San Diego State's the only other wild card that I can think of.
I'm telling you right now,
they're 7-1. They're leading the Midwestern Conference. That's the only team outside of the American Conference that I could see that could make it. Is all I'm saying.
My school would be South Florida. South Florida has I know they lost to Memphis, so it make it a little tough there, but they already have a win over North Texas. They have ranked wins, earlier in the season. Granted, one of them was against Florida, who really shouldn't count as a ranked win, and one was against Boise, who again really shouldn't count as a ranked win. But they do ultimately have those two going for them right now. So I think my school to look out for would be USF, even with the head-to-head loss to Memphis.
That's tough, man. I mean, they're the only thing I would say is they're kind of. I don't know if anybody that's lost head-to-head to somebody on this thing is higher than somebody in the rankings. I just don't. That's one thing they've been kind of consistent with through the couple of years. That if you've played head-to-head, it's kind of hard to jump somebody. I don't know how they would do that.
Well, I do think USF would have an opportunity to get back in the conference championship game. So I think that's something that could change that fate as well. Depending on, I don't know what the standings are, but
I do have the standings actually, in case we just want to take a quick peek. We were going to do this later, but since we're talking about it, let's just throw it up there. These are the standings for all the conferences that are actually matter. And obviously, I only put the American Conference up there because it's pretty clear cut to me that it's
going to be one of those four.
It's going to be one of the American Conference teams. So this is the updated standings. Obviously, there may be a couple other teams that have a chance to make the conference championship game in each of these conferences, but I went by the most likely as well as the best schedule. And this is the current rankings, not including Memphis. Obviously, Memphis is now 4-2 in conference, 8-2 overall. So that's the only non-updated team on this list. But yeah, Navy, Memphis, South Florida, and North Texas are kind of at the top of the American Conference right there. And that's why I'm leaning I really like a South Florida, North Texas American Conference Championship game to determine who makes college football playoff.
I mean, I think that's very possible, but the way that first game looked, I mean, it was a shootout, but USF really put it to that North Texas team. I think it was like 60-something to 35. So South Florida is one of those teams where I will say I think South Florida is a team that I don't think they're going to beat a Georgia, but if one of those SEC schools I'm not saying they would lose to not saying that they would beat Ole Miss, but like if Ole Miss is on that line or a team that kind of backdoors into that 5 spot there, I think South Florida could give one of these big schools a game.
Not saying they can't. I mean, we've already seen them beat big names earlier this year. The Navy game today won't really affect what they're dealing with in the American. It's gonna be a non-conference game.
What I hate, and I talked about this last year, and we had a little brief discussion about it, is that if Navy wins out right before the Army-Navy game, isn't the American Conference Championship game the week before Army-Navy?
Yep.
So
they would play an extra game and they wouldn't get a week off like everybody else would.
They wouldn't get a week off, but the thing is, though, is that I feel like it has its advantages and disadvantages. Like, essentially, Navy could lose to Army, and they would already be in the college football playoff.
That puts them in such a weird spot, though.
But that's the thing, though, is
they can't because I think they would already be locked in. I don't think
the rankings seem fair. Doesn't seem fair.
They do, because they pick before that, like they pick that week of.
Yeah, that's treated like a bowl game almost. But Navy can't go out and just lay down in that game either, though. Like, that's not like, all right, you know what? We do have a college football playoff game next week. Like, we can't go out and like, we're just going to play our second string guys. Like, they don't have that luxury either. Like, they have to play that game. So, like, that's not a spot I'd want to be in. And not to mention, it's just an extra game of wear and tear in general.
But let me just jump back real quick to the polls. Let's just do a quick little rundown of who we think would win this thing. And then we'll jump into recaps, previews, and then that should take us down the show. Y'all down?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I am going to go out on a limb here and say, as much as I hate to say it, I think the Final Four is chalk here. I think there's a bunch of interesting games. Like I think Oregon Texas Tech's a great game. I think the winner of that would definitely be a good game at Columbus. I just don't see either one of those teams beating Ohio State this year. I think Georgia probably beats up pretty good on whoever ends up in that 12 seed.
Yep.
I don't know if they beat Bama now. Again, I don't know if anybody's playing better than Bama right now. I think Bama at home. I think it's a tough game for who's ever in that spot. So I like Bama there.
You got to
But
remember
isn't
though,
that
Bill, that the second round is neutral sites.
yeah. The opening round are at the college stadiums and then neutral sites for the rest of the way out.
Doesn't change anything for me. Indiana, I think is by far the best team out of those three. I think it's miles apart. I would love BYU to beat Notre Dame somehow. I don't know if it happens. But like I said, I think Cignetti would try to hang 70 on Notre Dame. So I like Indiana there. I think Ole
Ole
Miss
Miss
has
A&M, that's a nice matchup.
It is. I think Ole Miss has way too much offense for Virginia. And then A&M Ole Miss, I think, is, in my opinion, probably the best second round game out of all of them. I think the way Alabama's playing right now, I think they would be the favorite over Georgia. And as much as I would love Oregon, Ohio State to be a really good game, I think Ohio State's team is just as good as last year's, and I don't think Oregon's is. I think A&M Ole Miss would be a great game, but I still favor A&M to get out of there.
Control, what do you think?
I would have Oregon, Georgia, surprisingly Notre Dame, and then Ole Miss all advancing to the next round. Then I would have Ohio State. I would pick Georgia over Bama at a neutral site, and then I'd take Indiana and A&M ultimately to advance there. And then I'd have a national championship game of Ohio State and Indiana. I think it'd be a rematch of the Big Ten championship game, which would be nuts. But ultimately, I'd have Ohio State getting it done. I think it's kind of crazy to me because I knew Ohio State would bring back a ton of talent. But before the year, like I told you guys, I didn't even think we'd win the conference this year. But what they've been able to do defensively, like, of course, I thought the offense would be fine. But what they've been able to do defensively is something that really has surprised me. And yes, Penn State went down. They scored 2 touchdowns, and they scored one like in the red zone. Which is something that you don't really see too often against this Ohio State defense. But just as a whole, the way that those guys can flip a switch and turn it on, the only teams that truly scare me are the ones that have the crazy weapons on offense. Oregon is one of those schools that I wouldn't want to see just because they have the weapons on offense to get the big plays and the explosives. Alabama's another one with Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams out there. Like, I think they have the abilities to exploit certain matchups potentially. And then, of course, Georgia's another one with Noah Thomas and Zachariah Branch and, all the weapons they have there on offense. So I think Indiana and A&M are better teams than Bama, Georgia, and Oregon. But as far as a matchup against Ohio State, I think the other three they worry me more because of the explosives as far as the playmakers on their offense. Like, I think that's the way to chip away at Ohio State. You don't want to get into the long drives down the field. You want to find ways to, hit them over the top 60-yard plays. And I think Oregon, Bama, and Georgia are the 3 teams that scare me the most in that category. So if they find a way to make it out of their side of the region there, I think they take care of business in the national championship against whoever comes off from the right side.
Yeah, and plain and simple, I think it's going to come down to Texas A&M and Oregon for the national championship. I do think that, you can roll your eyes all you want, Bill. You think that this Oregon team isn't as good as last year's team. I think this Oregon team is deeper. I think we can get you with more than just Control's just rolling his eyes. I can't wait. I can't wait for this to happen. I wish we played Ohio State. I wish we played Michigan this year. It kills me that we don't. But no, I think Oregon takes care of Texas Tech. I think Georgia takes care of North Texas, who I think, or South Florida, whoever ends up in that 12 spot. I think Georgia takes care of business. The second round to me is going to be the most exciting. Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, A&M, and BYU, Indiana is the matchup that I think is going to happen. I think BYU takes care of Notre Dame. Bear Bachmeier, I like what he brings to the table. I like that BYU defense. Bear Bachmeier is the first freshman quarterback since Trevor Lawrence to start his career 8-0. There's a lot to be said for that. And then for that, it's going to be Oregon against Alabama. Dan Lanning, DeBoer rematch. That's going to be something that's going to be talked about all that week with Dan Lanning coming out on top. And then we got Ole Miss, A&M. Like you guys said, probably the best game to watch in that second round. I do think the A&M gets by Ole Miss. I think it's a close game. Indiana, BYU. I think Indiana takes care of BYU, but I think that's a really close game as well. And then A&M beats Indiana. Oregon beats Alabama. Oregon A&M championship. Oregon takes care of business. But I also think that they should reseed after the first round.
No, not a fan.
That's fine. You don't have to be a fan. That's what I think should happen. Other than that, though, that's the college football playoff as far as what it's looking like now. We're not going to do this every week, but as we get closer, I'm sure we'll take into account what the matchups will be. Anything else you guys want to bring up before we jump into recaps and previews?
I'm curious to know, and I get it, losses do happen, but is there anything, and they're not even like troll or anything, but is there anything that Oregon can do the rest of the way that'll make you think that they can't win the national championship this year?
Lose another game. Besides
oh man, he left us on the cliffhanger.
No, I'm here.
I'm
here.
There it is.
All right. What was that? You said lose another game, or besides what?
Besides not making the playoff, there's nothing that makes me think they can't win the national championship.
All right. So you go out there, you have a stinker today against Iowa, but you find a way to win.
Which could happen with the weather. It could happen.
16-13, you find a way to win. Like,
yep.
You're still all in on Oregon no matter what the rest of the way.
Yes, because it's going to be cold, it's going to be windy, it's going to be rainy. And if Decorian Moore is out, as there have been rumored to be, and Kenyon Sadiq is not 100% healthy, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for Iowa to make this a close game.
All right, but with that said too, and I don't want to just keep bashing Oregon here, but with Decorian Moore, like if it is an ACL thing, like that's not going to be a 1 week injury. With him out, if he is out for the season there, is that something that would change the outlook? Because again, I'm not saying that Oregon is not one of those teams that can't win national championship, and I get it, it's your team, like you're supposed to be like Oregon, like we're gonna win it, every single year or whatever. But look, I'm just curious for you if there's anything.
If Oregon's not going to win the national championship, it's going to be Texas A&M this year. If that's what you're getting at, like who I'm picking, if Oregon isn't good, who I would pick besides Oregon is Texas A&M. To win the national championship this year. But like you said, we have 3 ranked matchups the rest of the year, thanks to the poll. Justin, I was just about to say that if Decorian Moore is out, Evan Stewart should be back with a couple weeks left to go in the season. Malik Benson has been playing fantastic. Kenyon Sadiq is absolutely one of the top tight ends in the country. And we have a plethora of running backs who can make plays happen. So that's why I'm not too worried about it. My issue is that a close game today against Iowa and the end of the year matchup against Washington are 2 matchups that make me a little nervous.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like I said, I got respect for Oregon this year. I do. Oregon, Bama, Georgia are my 3 that worry me the most out of any other team in the country, just based off of personnel. So I got respect for Oregon. I was just curious if there's anything that would make you get off the boat there as far as like
Dante Moore would need to go down. If Dante Moore somehow went down, I would be a little nervous because there's a lot of argument going around amongst fans right now as far as who's the true backup. Like Dan Lanning is having an answer in the press conferences after every game why he plays, who he plays in garbage time. Like he's like whether they're Luke Moga, I believe his name is, like he's earning his reps in practice, but other people think that he shouldn't be the backup. And then
he's a walk-on, right?
Yeah. So it's just what makes me nervous is if we lose Dante, we don't have anything like last year. If what's his face? Why am I blanking his name right now?
Yep. Yeah, he's forgettable.
Totally blanking it. But if he would have gone down,
Dylan Gabriel.
Thank you. If Dylan Gabriel would have gone down last year, I knew we had Dante Moore waiting.
Right.
This year, Dante Moore goes down. I don't know who we have in the waiting. I haven't seen enough from anybody to be like, I'm impressed. The only quarterback I'm waiting for is Akili Smith Jr., that 6'6", 212-pound rocket of an arm legacy. He's who I'm waiting for, but he's not ready yet. So I think it would take Dante Moore going down to make me lose confidence in this Oregon team.
Okay, fair enough.
But let's get to recaps, y'all. We already did that. Boom. There we go. Bill, where are we going, my friend?
Let's start. We'll start with Ohio State, Penn State.
All right.
A little bit of a closer first half than I thought it would be. Ohio State wasn't necessarily. I just don't think they were really crisp or really clean with the football. Looked a little. I think off kilter is right. Where they just weren't executing well. It's the best way to put it. Second half they did. They came out, threw the ball well. Jeremiah Smith made another insane catch. Julian Sange continues to rack up the stats. And like I said, I feel like they're just just giving him a little bit more and more every week. He's starting to look, better and better every week. Defense didn't let Penn State score in the second half. Covered the bet like I thought they would. Another big win for Ohio State. Not a ton to, I think, really get into here.
Yeah. Before you go, Kachuk, because obviously you watch this game from start to finish, you're going to have the best intel on it. I really am kind of saddened that Drew Aller and really the matchup we thought this game was going to be at the beginning of the year. I'm really upset that we didn't get to see that, because I feel like though Ohio State probably still would have won, it would have been such an amazing game to watch. The Drew Aller, James Franklin as the coach. I just feel like it would have been a really nice matchup to watch. But Ohio State took care of business. I did say last week I thought Penn State would keep it close in the first half, and they did find a way to do that. But ultimately, water always finds a level, and Ohio State kind of took care of business in the second half. But Control, as you watch the game a little bit, and you probably have seen Penn State play a little more than I have this year, besides when Oregon played them. What's going on? And Bill, you can also chime in. What's going on with the whole Katron Allen, Nicholas Singleton situation? Like at the beginning of the year, they were very balanced as far as how they use them in attacking. Now it seems like it's just a Katron Allen show.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, the reps matter. Katron has looked like a better running back all season. So I think that Katron has kind of earned those reps there. And I also think it's another thing too, when you have this up and down of the team, right? So it's easy to be balanced against and I don't even know what their early schedule was, but it's easy to be balanced against the UABs, the smaller schools where you're not necessarily worried about winning. You're just trying to figure out a formula there. But when you get in these in the conference play, you get into these bigger matchups, you have to roll with the hot hand. And I would say that in a sense, we kind of talked about it with Notre Dame because they have Jeremiah Love, who's supposed to be their bell cow. But I'd argue that Notre Dame has the kid's name is escaping me right now. But I'd argue that, yeah, Jadarian Price is one of those guys who might be the best backup in the country. Like there's probably 88-90% of schools that he can go right now and be the starting running back there. And we saw that taken away from Jeremiah there. But eventually you have to start feeding the hot hand. You have to get the ball in your best, players' hands. And I feel like that's what Penn State's starting to do. Katron Allen has just been better to me this season.
No, okay. That helps me.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much that. I mean, I think he just started playing a little bit better, and they've gone more to a one-back system where, Singleton is kind of spelling him for relief and help. But I think Aller, when he went down, I think that's kind of made this whole process speed up a little bit as well, and really go to like the starting running back and say, this is going to be the guy. We got to ride him for the next, 5 weeks till the season's over. But it's like Cottrell said, man. I mean, the reps matter, and you get a certain amount of plays a game to impress and try to make an impression on the coaching staff, and that's apparently how it's going down.
I will say though, the one thing about this specific game, Alex was trying to get under my skin a little bit. The game was a 3-point game at halftime, and talking a little bit, but the way that game actually looked, I promise you, I'd never had any true concerns, of it. Like, it's one thing to have close games. Like, I think if it had looked differently and Penn State was consistently moving the ball on offense, like, I'd be like, oh, like, here we go. But, like, to me, it felt like more of Ohio State miscues than Penn State doing great things. I thought they had a really good thing going with they had a toss play that was they had a pin pull toss play that was going to town every time. They ran it 3 times, and I want to say every time they ran it, it was 10+ yards a pop. And I knew Ohio State, that was something Ohio State would have had to go into the locker room and focus on, making their adjustments for it. But I knew that they would do that ultimately. First half, you also have the fumble from C.J. Donaldson in Penn State's territory that also led to, one of those touchdowns there. So I never truly had a doubt in this game. Like I even told you guys verbatim, offense has been dominating. Patricians will make adjustments to stop the run in the second half. Ohio State will cover. Told you this at halftime when it was 17-14. So never truly a doubt there for me. But I give Penn State a ton of credit, though, in this aspect. That is a game where obviously this season has not gone anywhere close to what you've wanted it to. But you could tell those guys had some fight in them still. I think in this spot, it'd be easy to just kind of roll over. You got a backup coach. Well, I mean, you got an interim coach. You got a backup quarterback. That's a spot where you could essentially kind of just roll over. And that's not what they did. They fought. They were outmanned. And, ultimately it showed. And Ohio State just, put it to them there in the second half. But I do give that Penn State team some credit for at least being a resilient group and showing some fight there in the first half.
Well, that's nice of you to say something nice about them. Bill, what are we going to next?
Let's go with.
Might as well get the other blowout out the way.
Yeah, let's go up to Utah and Cincinnati. Cincinnati mentioned a little bit earlier in the show. They were ranked last week, went to Utah, and just did not play well. Utah, another big win. Keeping them in the judging by the standings, keeping them in the thick of the things for an at-large playoff berth, hopefully. So this game was not as competitive even early as the Penn State, Ohio State game was. Utah was in pretty good control of this for most of the game, in my opinion, and then just pulled away in the second half. I watched a decent amount of the second half. Cincinnati couldn't get off the field. Utah's OC, whoever he was, had them on skates, man. Like they would every time they play the run heavy, he called the right play, pass to an opposite direction. A lot of big chunk plays for Utah. Really made them look like an offensive juggernaut last Saturday. But again, big win for Utah, big win for Kyle Whittingham in the program. And like I said, they stay in the conversation. They're trying to stay relevant.
Can I go real quick here, Alex? Because I promise it'll be short and sweet.
That's fine.
I did not see this game at all. Was not one of the ones that made the hospital checklist on Saturday. So I really have nothing to really say about it. I'm looking at the score here. It looks like Utah absolutely dominated, and I understand why they are in the top 20 now. I'm still confused about them being necessarily 13, but good for Utah getting a big time win against Cincinnati team who had it rolling there. So that's really all I got. But like I said, I didn't see it, so I don't even want to act like I knew what happened in this game.
The crazy thing is about this game is that Cincinnati's offense actually were able to have some success at times. The big thing was that Utah had the ball 40 of the 60 game minutes. Cincinnati only had the ball for 20 minutes. Actually, they only had the ball for 19 minutes and 58 seconds in the game. Like that's going to make a huge difference if Utah's able to hold on to the ball like that. Utah completely dominated the time of possession. They ran the ball 53 times, 5 yards a pop. Like that's exactly how I think that's the type of football Utah wants to play the rest of the season. And honestly, that's the type of football they need to play if they want to beat the likes of, because they got to bye this week. They got Baylor, Kansas State, and Kansas to end the year. And they have a very, very, very good chance of making that Big 12 Conference Championship if they can take care of business all those games. And if BYU wins today, it makes things a little bit murky because Texas Tech goes at 2 losses. They already have the tiebreaker against Cincinnati and Houston. So like I said, this conference is going to come down to the last couple weeks, just like it did last year. But this is the type of football Utah wants to play the rest of the year. Dampier didn't look the best throwing the ball, but again, with his legs, he was able to make plays happen, extend drives, and is a huge reason why they had the ball for 40-plus minutes. So I picked Cincinnati to win this game, actually, last week, because I thought Brendan Sorsby was going to have a day. But instead, Utah's defense held them to 11 for 33 passing for 221 yards, 6.7 average per completion. That is not a recipe for success. So kudos to Utah for winning that game. But That's the type of football Utah should be playing the rest of the season. Bill, any closing thoughts there?
No, I agree. I mean, Utah's got to win out. Utah's got to win out, stay in it, and hopefully try to get an at-large bid or still sneak into the Big 12 championship game, where I still think it'll be a must-win because I don't think if they get there and lose, I don't think they're going to let a 3-loss team in. That's not a conference champion. So again, to your point, I know you've been on Dan Pierre all year. Like I said, I watched a big chunk of that second half, and they had Cincinnati's defense just on skates, man. They were all over the place. Really, really called a really good second half. A lot of good, mix up between run and pass, and Cincinnati could not get off the field defensively. So just what Kyle Whittingham does, man. He just wins games. I've really got to think at some point that guy takes a bigger job. Maybe it's this year. We'll see. We'll go top right. We'll go Oklahoma, Tennessee, 33-27 Sooners. It was a good game. I'll say this. It was a good game. It was a typical SEC game. Not exactly the cleanest game in the world from either team, but enough momentum swings back and forth. It was definitely interesting. It was definitely well played. I thought Tennessee would win at home. Oklahoma went in and handled business though, and just right when they were starting to kind of shrink down the old standings, they get this win, and now they're right back in the mix of everything, in the thick of all the conversations. So big win for Brett Venables and John Mateer and the boys. We'll see how they finish. I know they got a couple tough games left as well. Tennessee, I feel like kind of like last year. I feel like they're really good. I just feel like they don't play. I feel like they could be better than they are. And I like Josh Heupel. I like what he's done there. I just feel like he's not getting the most out of that team. I don't think Tennessee's going to make it. I think they're going to miss now, and it's a little bit of a shame. But I think it's going to be another disappointing year for the Volunteers when it's all said and done.
I kind of feel like I called the script for this game last week. I said Oklahoma was going to win, not with Mateer's arm, but with his legs. And he said he only had 159 passing yards, but he had 80 important rushing yards as well as a touchdown. I think the thing that also throws me for a loop here is Oklahoma only had 2 offensive touchdowns in this game. 1 defensive touchdown, and the rest were field goals. Like, Tennessee's defense was the definition of bend but do not break, and their offense just could not put it together for one drive to really kind of help them out, as Joey Aguilar threw 2 interceptions to Oklahoma's defense. So the game was extremely evenly matched throughout. Even time of possession I think it was like a 30-second difference in time of possession. I was pulling for Oklahoma in this game, but I thought the way Tennessee's defense was, like I said, bending but not breaking, I thought that would be the reason that Tennessee was able to walk off with the win while I was watching the game. So I'm super happy Oklahoma was able to win, keep themselves in the running. Tennessee, unfortunate to have their 3rd loss, as they've had a fantastic season. But John Mateer stays alive on the outside looking into the college football playoff, but lots of opportunities left up with their schedule to kind of put them over the top, as they have a bye this week. They have a chance to beat Alabama next week. They got Missouri, who's got an injured quarterback situation. And then they got LSU, who's reeling for the last 3 games. So Oklahoma, they have a way to be 3-0 in those games. And if they do, they're walking into the college football playoff.
It's kind of crazy how that last slate of games there, like going into the season, I think we said the Missouri game would be tricky. LSU and Bama, I think we would have all, maybe not you, Alex, because you're high on Mateer, but I think the consensus there was that they would probably have lost both of those games. But now that we've seen the season kind of play out, of course, I still think the Bama matchup's going to be tough for them. But like LSU wasn't the juggernaut that we thought, and then with the injury to Bo Prabula, like you look at that Missouri game a lot differently there. But to me, I think this game came down to a few things. I think you made a good point there with the turnovers from Aguilar. Obviously, those hurt. I know they also had a fumble that they lost in that game as well. I think the biggest thing for me, though, is you talk about Mateer using his legs. I think it was just Oklahoma as a whole. Like, yes, that time of possession was really close there, but Oklahoma was able to do whatever they wanted to on the ground against Tennessee. You know, they had almost 200 total rushing yards against that Tennessee group there. And when you can do that, like, I feel like you essentially can take your opponent's will. And I get it. Like I said, the time possession wasn't necessarily as crazy as you thought, but if Mateer doesn't have to beat you with his arm, and that's just like essentially a luxury for you, Oklahoma's going to be in a really good spot there. So for me, I think that this is a good win for Oklahoma. They ultimately do get to stay alive, and it's crazy that Tennessee is sitting at 6-3 because I still believe that they are a top 25 school. I just think their losses have kind of been very unfortunate, you know, losing to Georgia, losing to Bama, and now losing to Oklahoma. And the Georgia game really could have went the opposite way. So it's just unfortunate. Bill, you said you feel like Heupel hasn't gotten the most out of his players. I'd agree in the sense of, you know, these one-score games going the wrong way. But as a whole, I mean, we talked about Joey Aguilar, but losing Nico, we definitely thought Tennessee would take a step back. And for them to even still be in the position that, you know, both of the one-score games go the opposite way, we're talking about a Tennessee team that's in the driver's seat of making the college football playoff.
Yeah, I think I just look at it like, I mean, even they made it last year, but then, like, you know, they didn't get off the bus for the game. And then, like, I just feel like I give Josh all the credit in the world because he's put this team back in the spotlight and he's put this team back in, you know, the upper echelon of college football where they should be. I mean, they're a blue blood program. But I feel like every time the last couple of years, like the spotlight has kind of really, really just been on them and shown bright at the biggest moments. I feel like this is the recap we have every time. Like, they're a possession short. And I agree with you. To lose Nico as late as he did, to the point where, you know, he really didn't have an opportunity to go out and shop. Already had Joey Aguilar, but you know, to have them not fall off, you know, a cliff again is a great coaching job. Maybe it's me. Maybe I just think, like, I think Josh Heupel has the ability to be an elite coach, and I think he has the ability to put Tennessee literally back on the top of the mountain. And I just feel like more often than not, when they're in these really big spots, they don't play well. And that's, you know, I guess maybe that's kind of what I'm harping on, and maybe it's a little too critical. I don't know.
Tennessee does seem to find themselves in on the wrong side of the one-score games. Like, I'll give you that. I'm just saying, like, my expectations for Tennessee this year, like, I didn't think they would be competing for a college football playoff spot, and that's 100% what they were doing. Obviously, I don't think that's going to come to fruition now with them having 3 losses, but you know, they played an Oklahoma team really tough.
They did. All right. Last but not least, down to the bottom right hand corner, Vanderbilt at Texas. I would say the way this game started, I think a lot of people were like, here comes the downfall of Vanderbilt. And this is the Vanderbilt we're used to watching. And Jesus, Texas looks really good, and they figured it out. Then they went to halftime, and they came back out, and the game got a little tighter. And then Vanderbilt just started scoring. I kept flicking this back and forth between a couple other games, and I swear to you, it was like every other time I flicked it back, like, Vanderbilt would be scoring a touchdown or kicking a field goal, and I'd be like, Jesus Christ, like, is Texas really going to blow this at home? I give Vanderbilt and those kids all the credit in the world for really, you know, sticking in there, and yeah, I am pretty sure halftime was not pleasant in that locker room. But they came out on fire, man, and then they went after Texas, and, you know, said we're going to go out fighting. You know, and Pavia, however you want to say his last name. Again, gut check time. I think he played well. You know, when you really had to. To Cottrell's point earlier, mentioned the show. I think Arch is starting to look like the Arch that we all thought Arch was going to be. And Texas is I feel like Texas is definitely one of the teams minus the Mississippi State game, but they did win the game, so I can't count it against them that much or hold it against them that much. But I feel like they're one of the teams that you could definitely say is at least trending in the right direction right now, coming down the stretch. So it's going to be curious to see. They're already up to 11 or whatever the hell they're up to. They got a couple big games left, but if they get in, that means they beat Georgia and they beat who else? A&M down the stretch. And at that point, I think you're looking at them and Alabama, and obviously Ohio State and Indiana as being the hottest teams in the country, assuming they go unscathed down the stretch as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see. But again, a great game. I'm glad Vanderbilt showed up for themselves and saved face. It sucks that I don't think there's any way they make the playoff now. I would love to see them get in, but I think that ship has sailed. I think they had to win at Texas, but again, that program's on the rise. They're not your grandmom's Vanderbilt, and I hope they continue to recruit, and I hope they get another quarterback that can take the thrones and really keep them relevant because it's fun. It's a fun story.
Can I say something super wild real quick?
Sure.
I was checking to see who Vanderbilt had on their schedule left.
I'm with you. Whatever you're about to say, I'm with you because I think I know where you're going.
I don't think you do know where I was going because I was like, wait, do they have 2 weeks off in a row? And then I forgot ESPN put that their today's matchup at the very top of the schedule. Bam, they got Auburn, by Kentucky, Tennessee left. So that would put them. Let's just say that puts them at 10-2. A 10-2 Vanderbilt. We're probably looking at finishing fourth, maybe fifth in the standings in the SEC. We do think 4 SEC teams get in. I think Vanderbilt still has a chance. It's a very outside chance.
I do too. Texas is, Vandy is, I forgot what the rankings were at, but Vandy was like 17, 16. Like they were one spot ahead. I think 16, they were 16. They were one spot ahead of Georgia Tech there. So you assume that, and I know head-to-head matters, but a 3-loss Texas I don't think would be ahead of a 2-loss Vanderbilt team. You have, and I'm not saying it's going to be right, but you have BYU and Texas Tech playing today. Hypothetically, if Texas Tech loses, I think the committee, although I don't think it would be right, but there's a chance they would have a 2-loss Vanderbilt team ahead of Texas Tech, depending on how that game looks. You still have matchups of Georgia plays Texas. You talked about A&M. I don't know. I don't have their schedule up in front of me. Let me try and just get that pulled up here real quick.
They play Texas. Missouri. They play Texas too.
And they got Missouri. Missouri's the game we're going to talk about.
South Carolina, Stanford, and Texas.
I just think that the way the SEC is right now, ultimately, with all these schools still playing each other, you can have some crazy losses. And I think Vanderbilt's looking at their schedules. They should be licking their chops. They should be able to go 3-0. And yes, you need help, but it's not like a crazy, scenario where they'd be there. Because even look at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's also ahead of them. And they got a couple tough matchups too. So that's 2 teams right away there that I'm not expecting Oklahoma or Texas to go through these next run of 3 or 4 games unscathed. And even with the head-to-head loss here, I don't think that would kill Vandy, moving forward here. So I think there's still a shot, and I think it'd be a better shot than anything, to be honest. There, if I'm Vandy, I'm okay with where I'm at right now.
All right. Well, I guess only time will tell on that. Do you have any closing thoughts on Vanderbilt, Texas? Before we get into today's previews, pick 'em and eliminator.
No.
Let's roll to games of the week.
All right. Where are we going here?
Wherever you want.
Yeah, we'll go. We're going to start in the bottom right-hand corner here. Get this out of the way. I said this on Wednesday. This game, I will say this. This game has a weird habit of throwing wrenches into the rivalry sometimes. And what I mean by that is I remember 6 or 7 years ago, same thing. Notre Dame was a 30-point favorite, and Navy went in there and beat them. Not saying that happens today. The only thing I will say is the trend for this game is usually the same. It's either Notre Dame wins really big, or it's a close game at the end, and Navy has a legit chance to win. It's usually one of the two. It's only really one of the two. It's very rare that Notre Dame will just win by like 13. It'll either be Notre Dame's up by 30 with 4 minutes to go, or Navy's got the ball driving with 2 minutes to go to win the game. Like it's usually one of the two. So I think Jeremiah. I don't know if anybody on Navy can tackle Jeremiah Love, and that is the problem that I cannot get around for this game today. I think Navy's going to try to do what they always do: control the ball, get a bunch of 17 play drives to score, and really keep the ability and the chances that touches that Jeremiah Love gets. I took this for my super dog for a reason. I still don't trust Navy's defense or Notre Dame's defense, excuse me. And their game in Boston College last week did them no favors as well. So I think Notre Dame wins. I don't think they're going to lose at home. I would love it if they did. I might go on live and sit here and talk to myself later if they do. But ultimately, I think Notre Dame wins today. But I don't think they cover.
Alex, I'll keep it short and simple. I got Notre Dame 56, Navy 10. I think this is a blowout of epic proportions.
That's cool.
I don't see this Navy team competing. I think the spread is where it's at because Vegas is telling you that these two teams aren't close to each other.
Well, that's what they told me last week too. What happened?
I mean, I picked Boston College as my super dog, so I knew Boston College at home was a different animal. So I was with you. We picked up the same amount of super dog points, so I understood that one. This one,
1-7 team is a different animal at home.
I'm telling you, this Navy team. It's the style of play. They are so, and I get it. They pass more this year than they've done in years past. Whoop-de-doo. But ultimately, when Notre Dame's going to get stops in this game early, they're going to be able to put up points fast. And I see it turning into a track meet. And if you make Navy one-dimensional and in the sense of that they need to pass the ball, that's how blowouts happen. So that's how I see it going. I like Notre Dame, and I like them big. Like I said, 56-10.
Look, Notre Dame's winning this game. I don't think anyone's questioning that. I do think Navy, though, is going to control that clock. I think they have to. With their triple option attack, Notre Dame is familiar with it. They see it every single year, which kind of takes the element of surprise away for Navy, as not a lot of teams run that triple option anymore. I think it's pretty much the service academies that pretty much run that, right?
Yeah, it used to be Tech too, but they kind of got away from it a little bit.
Right. So I do think that Notre Dame wins this game. I think this first half, I think we go into halftime with Navy having the lead in this game.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yes. I think halftime Navy has the lead, but then Notre Dame kind of kicks it in. Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price just kind of take over and show Navy what a real rushing attack looks like. But I do think this game is close. I think that 28.5 spread. I think that's a bit much. I did not pick them as my super dog this week. I had another game in mind, but I think Navy keeps it close early. I think Notre Dame probably wins this game by 17. I don't think it's ever really in question, but after halftime, I don't think it's ever in question. But I think Navy goes into halftime either tied or up on Notre Dame. Where'd you next?
We're gonna go bottom left because again, I think this is
wow, game of the week.
I don't think it's the game of the week, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing for you. Oregon visiting Iowa. I've said what I've said about Iowa already. 6.5, I think is. I know it's Kinnick.
Now 5.5.
Yeah, I know it's Kinnick. I know it's. I think if this game was at night, I'd feel a little bit more edgier about it.
Under the lights, I've been there.
Yeah, same. But I just. I mean, I've seen enough of Iowa to know that it's still kind of the same old Iowa. And I think Oregon, coming off a bye, especially, got a little time to get a little healed up. I think probably work on a lot of things they wanted to work on. I think they'll come out today. I think they'll execute very well. I think they'll look really good in the first quarter, probably running a bunch of scripted plays they had laid out for this game. I like Oregon big today. I really do. I don't think this is a close game. And to Cottrell's point last with the last game, if you can get a 2.5 touchdown lead on Iowa and really make them start throwing the ball, and get out of what they want to do, that's how turnovers happen, and that's how I think blowouts happen. Like I said, I like Oregon big today.
Alex, this is your team, so I'm going to let you have your spotlight here, and I'm going to keep it simple with this one as well. I like Oregon big today too. I'm thinking like 31-13. Look, Iowa's Iowa, man. Bill, you said it earlier, and the point kind of stuck with me. Their claim to fame this season is that they lost to Indiana by a small margin, and I ultimately think that is the case there. But the other thing too is that Iowa needs to show me that they can put up points on a good football team for me to give them the respect that they feel like they've probably earned at this point. I get it. They didn't put up points against an Iowa State team earlier this year who had a healthy defense. They didn't put up points against Indiana, but putting up 30 against a Maryland or a Rutgers, like that's kind of stuff does not surprise me. Like I'm not buying into that. I'm not taking any stock into that. I think Oregon is going to slow down the Iowa offense. Gronowski's not going to have a great game there, and I think Oregon takes care of business. Decorian Moore playing, not playing, I really don't think it matters. I like Oregon in this one, at least 2 touchdowns, maybe even 3 scores there, but I don't think Oregon's ever in it really any doubt.
Decorian Moore, Dante Moore, and Black Elmore. It doesn't matter. We're winning this game today. Look, here's the thing. This game is going to be, I think this is going to be a dogfight. If this was normal conditions, if this was in Oregon, I don't think there's any question that Oregon absolutely takes care of Iowa. It's over at halftime. Here's my biggest concern. One, we're on the road, halfway across the country. Game's a 12:30 kickoff, for our time. But what the issue is what the weather is looking like. It's going to feel like it's 29 degrees, 77% chance of rain and snow by the end of the game. It's going to get colder as the night goes on. The wind seems like it's not going to be as much of a factor. Later in the game, gusts will get up to 22 miles per hour. And Justin, you are exactly right. We got to get Kenyon Sadiq more involved in the offense. Dante Moore was taken out of the game 2 weeks ago at halftime. Did not go back in the game with a hand injury. He's been practicing all week. He's fine. We heard some rumors of Decorian Moore getting carted off the field with an ACL injury yesterday. Haven't had any confirmation of that yet. So as far as I'm concerned, he's still playing. But this is going to be a game won and lost in the trenches. And a lot of people will say that Iowa's biggest strength is their defensive line and their offensive line. Well, today is where Oregon shows their flex and shows their muscle today. And I think that Oregon does take care of it, does win this game. I do think they cover, but I do think this game is close. I think it's a 10-point game. I think we have more of a 24-14 type game. Like I said, because of the weather, that's going to limit a lot of the passing attack late in the game. So I think this game will stay close because of that. So Oregon needs to jump out early, get to a 1-2 score lead in the first quarter before the weather starts to turn, and then kind of control the clock and the ball from then on out. And that's the recipe for success today for the University of Oregon.
All right.
Okay.
Alex, I'm not going to lie. I feel like what you just did was you were angling it to where if Oregon loses, the conditions are going to be the reason why. And
here's the thing.
I'm not a fan of that there. It almost is like you're telling me that, it's gonna be wet, it's gonna be windy, it may snow a bit. Like if that ultimately affects your team, like for me, I think that signs that your team is soft. Like if you're already kind of building these things
you're putting
into
words
into
you're reading between the lines too much, Cottrell. Too much between the lines reading.
I'm just going off what you said. I heard too much weather. I mean, I was going to be playing in the same weather.
What I said was, but Iowa, they don't look the style of play that the weather is going to. I'm telling you right now, the style of play that the weather is going to allow you to successfully play. And you ever thrown the ball in 35-degree winds down the field, Cottrell? It doesn't work out.
So I was a lineman. I didn't throw the ball. You
were a lineman? I didn't see that. Anyway, I was a slot receiver. Okay. So when heavy winds come into play, though the passing attack gets limited, which is a lot more run the ball. Iowa is very tough in between the trenches. So because of the change in play style and play calling that's going to be required due to the weather, I think the game stays closer. Because I think Iowa's run defense is fantastic. Oregon's run defense is fantastic. Hence lower scoring, hence closer game.
Well, I got news for you, buddy. Oregon's running attack is better than what Iowa's is. I get it. You're starting a lot of young kids there. Davison is young. Obviously, Whittingham is not necessarily young, but you have the better rushing attack there. You're starting another freshman too. Is Davison another freshman in Whittingham? I just don't remember the kid's name. I'm sure you know. But ultimately, Oregon is better in every aspect that you're talking about here. So whether it be a cold game, whether it be, weather playing into it, Iowa's going to be playing in these same conditions. And if you know Iowa's going to be one-dimensional, you have the defensive line to take care of it. You have the better rushing attack on the other side. And then ultimately, you have the better quarterback. So while throwing probably won't be your number one main thing that you're doing in the football game, if you have to do it, I trust Dante Moore throwing in the elements much more than I trust Mark Gronowski throwing in the elements, even though he's coming from South Dakota State where he's used to throwing in the cold weather and things like that. I think the better arms ultimately will prevail there. And I hate that I have to defend Oregon in this aspect there, but I just think you're bringing in you're bringing in the weather aspect of it. I'm saying that I think it's going to be more of a deterrent for Iowa than it will be for Oregon in general here, because ultimately Oregon's offense is built to be better in the conditions more than I think Iowa's is.
I get what you're saying, but you got to think back to that Browns game a couple weeks ago. But Dylan Gabriel, I think he only threw the ball like 9 times because of the weather and how it affected everything. That's how That's how today's game is going to be played as well. They're going to be limiting a lot of deep ball passes, which is something that Oregon needs to kind of show out a little bit more in, as far as throwing the ball downfield more. That's going to be taken away. And one thing Iowa's very good at is tackling, group tackling, gang tackling. They do not allow yards after the catch. So that's why I'm saying I still said Oregon's going to win. Two possession, Oregon's going to win. I'm just saying that because of the limitations caused by certain factors that are uncontrollable, that this game will be closer. I mean, you got to think about the Iowa-Indiana game. Indiana won the game by 3 before Mendoza ran back 40 yards for a safety. Or what was it? It was 5-point games. I forgot what the actual spread was before he ran back. But even Indiana struggled moving the ball against this Iowa defense, and that was in perfect conditions. So I know Oregon's going to have some struggles, but early in the game, while the weather is not a factor, expect them to throw the ball early, run the ball late to close out the game. That's all I'm saying.
Bill, these sound like built-in excuses to you too?
Excuses?
I just think it's weird for a team that is used to playing, I think, in the elements more so than a lot of other teams in Oregon, playing in the rain and stuff like that.
It never rains at Autzen Stadium. Haven't you heard?
To harp on the conditions that may or may not happen at Kinnick Stadium today.
It's in this forecast.
Because they're never wrong.
77% chance. Okay, you're right.
I mean, that sounds like 23% is a big.
Yeah, it means
big number.
3 out of 10 times it's not going to rain. I think it's very suspicious. I think it's very unbecoming of a true fan to really,
next game.
Be worried that much about what's going to happen.
Next game.
Yeah, we spent way too much time on that game. We're going to go top right corner. Texas A&M, number 3, traveling down to Mizzou, and the banged up Missouri Tigers that are just licking their wounds, their paws, and whatever else they can get their tongues on. They're a little bit of world of hurt here, and Texas A&M is not the team you want to see coming to town right now. I think Mizzou's defense has held them in the last couple of weeks. They just simply do not have any flow offensively since Bo Buell's been hurt. They're struggling to move the ball, keep possession of it, keep their defense off the field. Again, Texas A&M is probably not the team you want to see walking into your stadium with those issues. I'll be real quick. I like A&M today, and I like an A&M big. I think just way too much offense for them. This is probably the final nail in the coffin for Missouri, but I like A&M big.
I agree. I like A&M big as well. Alex, I'll let you go ahead, jump right in here. I just think Missouri's too banged up to really compete in this one. So I like A&M, and I like them to win big in this one. And I'm not going to say it sucks, but it sucks for Missouri because I think if Bo was healthy, this could be one of those games where they would have surprised a lot of people and potentially had A&M on upset alert. But just with everything that's going on there with that Missouri team, I just think it's going to be tough to beat an A&M team who has looked like one of the best teams in the country so far this season.
He took the words
Let's
right out
talk
of my
about the
mouth.
weather.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's talk about the weather in Missouri, guys. It's gonna be real hot. Look, honestly, I think you took the words right out of my mouth. If Bo Prabula was playing in this game, you might be hearing me tell you 3 or 4 reasons why Missouri walks out with the upset today. Without Bo Prabula, I saw what that offense did against Vanderbilt. Bo Prabula went out against Vanderbilt on the 2-yard line on 2nd down, and Missouri could not score with their backup quarterback. So that kind of tells you everything you need to know, that the backup came in, needed to get 2 yards and couldn't get it done. And that kind of spells what I think this game is going to be. I think A&M absolutely manhandles Missouri. Missouri will not be ranked after this week. A&M, I think, will win probably by 3 possessions. A lot of people are calling this game to be closer, that Missouri's defense is going to be able to hang in. I don't think that they're going to be able to. I think A&M takes care of business even on the road. Short, sweet. If Bo Prabula was playing, I might think a little differently, but he's not. Therefore, it's over.
All right. Last but not least, the actual game of the week, not the weather in Iowa. BYU versus Texas Tech. Listen, this is a big game, not only in the college football playoff. This is a big game for the Big 12. BYU could somehow go to Lubbock and win. They are not only firmly in the driver's seat for the Big 12. You're probably looking at a top 5 or 6 seed come Tuesday. Be a huge game for BYU. Texas Tech, one bad loss. I don't know if they can recover from another one. This wouldn't be a bad loss. It's not what I'm saying, but they're kind of on the fringe outside looking in now. To lose this game, I don't know how that would affect them in regards to getting back to the Big 12 championship game. I don't know where that would put them. But I think it's going to be a really good game. BYU were my darlings last year. I would love to pick them. The fact that they're the 7th ranked team in the country after losing their quarterback a week and a half before the season starts is kind of nuts. Even though that quarterback, did go nuts for Tulane last night. But that being said, I'm pulling for BYU. I want BYU to win. I just think Texas Tech and that defense is going to be too much at home. I like a close one. I'm going to take the Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Here's the thing, man. Texas Tech, when they're $7 million or $40 million team that they brought to play this year, they're really showing out. And BYU, who is someone that we talked about, I think it was week 1, was right before our first show of the season, was when Retzlaff left BYU due to getting some. But other than that, Bear Bachmeier has been an absolute stud. And today, BYU is getting their stud running back, LJ Martin, back from injury. He's someone that leads the Big 12 in rushing. He's been out, I think, the last 2 or 3 weeks. I can't remember how many, but he's got 5 touchdowns on the season. BYU is 100% going to try to control the time of possession and control the clock in this game and limit Texas Tech's possessions. Look for Bear Bachmeier and LJ Martin to run the ball coefficiently. Like I said, Bear Bachmeier is, the first quarterback since Trevor Lawrence to start his career off 8-0 as a freshman. I think that he has an extreme promise. I think this BYU team is going to be a team to reckon with over the next couple of years while he's at the helm. And I think that this game, even though it's a 13.5-point spread, I have BYU going into Lubbock, taking care of business and eating the tortillas on the way out with a victory. I think BYU is going to take care of business today against Texas Tech, and it's behind LJ Martin and Bear Bachmeier making the plays with their feet.
So I'm going to give you the one name that I think you have to look out for in this game, and that is David Bailey. He is the edge at Texas Tech. I think he is the one who is going to have his way in this one. I think BYU has done a really good job all season of being resilient. And I say that because they had a close game against Colorado earlier in the year where they really had no business winning. They won it late. They took care of it and got it taken care of. But they had another game later on against Arizona where, again, no business really winning that game, and they got it done. BYU is a team that I think puts themselves in a position to where some games are closer than what they need to be. And as a true freshman quarterback like Bear Bachmeier, being able to have the confidence in himself, even in those moments, it's truly impressive. But I think, with that said, though, this Texas Tech team is a different beast. Texas Tech was my preseason pick to win the conference here. And I think they're going to go out and show you that they are the best team in the Big 12. I think offensively, with Barrymore, being back another week healthier, that offense will have it going. And like I said, I think defensively, Texas Tech will make Bear and company a lot more uncomfortable. So for me, I think Texas Tech wins this one. I think it's probably right around that spread number. I can see this being a 31-21 kind of ball game, maybe a 31-17 kind of ball game there, where BYU is competitive in this one, but I think Texas Tech has too much for BYU. So I like Texas Tech to ultimately get the win here.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that's it for games of the
That's it
week.
for games of the week. What do we got next week? We have anything good next week?
I don't know, but next up, I know we have the Mountain.
Look at those tombstones, man. They're piling up.
I know. 5 tombstones. And honestly, if I had time this morning, Memphis would have one as well. But they're on the mountain because I didn't touch this after last night. So it is
Fair
what
enough.
it is. But no,
Fair enough. No, I like it.
Yeah, Georgia Tech, Miami, Vanderbilt, all on the plane out, or all on the helicopter out, getting medevaced. Got Missouri still kind of hanging around at the campsite. We got Oklahoma and we got Louisville at the campsite, which Missouri, if they find a way to win today, hey, they're back in the thick of things as far as I'm concerned. But after this week, they're probably going to have a tombstone.
Alex, I give you a ton of credit for having Oregon lower than Indiana, A&M, Bama, and Georgia. Like, I know it looks like you did it on. I know you did it based on rankings, but I'm just saying, like, I know how you get there. So,
we see you.
I am impressed that you were able to keep them as low as you do.
Yeah, whatever. We're just gonna slingshot. You ever seen Talladega Nights? We're just gonna slingshot.
Slingshot engaged.
Exactly. But that's the limiter mountain for right now. I think all that's left to do, boys, is pick them and
pick them.
So I got the updated standings here. Obviously, I wasn't here last week, but I gave my picks on wire to wire, so all caught up there. And Alex is jumping out to a monstrous lead in Superdog. So definitely giving him credit there. But Bill is still the only one that's positive right now. So we gotta change that, Alex.
Yeah, I got you. All right. Where are we starting? Because Control did not give his picks this week. His matter.
His do matter. So I'm going to go first and get out of the way, and then you two can decide how you want to do it behind me here. Mine are really easy. I'm going a lot of chalk this week. I already mentioned Texas A&M minus 6.5 in Missouri. I think they win big. Oregon minus 6.5 at Iowa. Minus the rain and Alex's tears. I think Oregon wins big today. Wake Forest at Virginia. Virginia plays really well at home. They're minus 6.5. I don't think they stumble up against Wake Forest today. I like them to cover as well. And then, like I said, Navy plus 28.5 at Notre Dame for my Superdog. Mine are all really easy.
Alex, I don't know if you want me to go or
no. I'll go.
What?
I'll go because I always go last. So this time you get to go last. All right, so I'll make this short
you have the worst
and sweet.
record.
I'm riding with the Road Dogs. Not super dog wise. Jeez. Short and sweet, and I'm rolling with a lot of road teams today. First up, Georgia, minus 9.5 against Mississippi State. Georgia's just a different beast, man, and I don't think they're going to stumble against Mississippi State. I think they're going to handle business. They are not looking ahead from week to week, just focusing on the team ahead of them, and they're going to take care of business today. LSU, plus 10.5. This is probably the biggest gamble of the day. LSU plus 10.5 at Alabama. Teams tend to rally around each other when their head coach gets fired. And so far this season, teams who coaches have been fired are 3-0 against the spread. I'm going to ride that LSU train I'm going to ride the LSU train into Alabama to cover that 10.5 points. UNLV going to Colorado State -4.5. UNLV is going to win by at least 2 scores. And then for Superdog, I'm going against my intuition here. I have a problem with teams traveling from one coast to the next. But today's game with Cal and Louisville is at 4 p.m. And that is not going to affect the Cal offense. I think Cal goes into Louisville, covers that. I had it at 18.5 yesterday. It's 17.5 today. I don't care which number you want to give me. I'm taking them both. I think Cal has a very strong chance of actually winning this game today against Louisville. Give me Cal with the Superdog points.
Yeah, so funny enough, I share games with both of you guys. So I'll go first here I'll take Indiana -14.5 at Penn State. Indiana's had it absolutely rolling. I mean, there's not really much to be said there. And even going to Happy Valley, like I just don't think that's going to be the environment that it once was. This season, I think Indiana steamrolls Penn State in Happy Valley there. I also have Oregon -6.5 at Iowa today. For all the reasons I gave you when we went through the previews. And then my last game here, I like Washington -10.5. Again, traveling across the country at Wisconsin. I just don't think Wisconsin's offense is going to be able to put up a ton of points there. Like I think if Washington puts up 27, like they're going to cover that 10.5 point spread there with no problem. And for my super dog, I am also with Alex with that Cal +18.5 at Louisville pick. That game stood out to me. I just saw Cal play a Virginia team really tough last week. Now they lost by 10, but to me, Virginia and Louisville are really neck and neck there. I mean, we saw the Louisville Virginia game go to overtime there. So I think with what Cal does, like they'll be able to put up points. They'll be able to stay tight in this one. And I think this is a spot where, Louisville could potentially be having in cruise control. And I don't see another game where Louisville potentially slips up there. And so maybe they're looking at it like, hey, we're on the outside looking into the college football playoff. We can just coast a little bit and, we're going to make it in. We just got to take care of business moving forward there. And I think Cal is a sneaky good team that they'd be able to make that game closer than it should be.
Sneaky good.
Sneaky good.
All right. I think we are all in agreement there then. Did that.
Perfect. Well,
let's go watch some football because I know it's already kicked off.
Some games have kicked off. Nobody's scored yet. I saw BYU's driving. So,
Yep.
Any closing thoughts, gentlemen?
Got nothing. I'm ready to watch some ball today, man.
Me too. I have the week off. I have no stress, so I'm gonna sit back and watch a bunch of ball today. And that's it. We're gonna get you guys out of here. Thank you as always for tuning in. Justin, Gene was in there earlier. Key, everybody, thank you. As always, and again, congratulations to Cottrell, baby Uriah, his first Buckeye game today. Hope it's an L. Just kidding. But and I'm gonna be tuning in for the Oregon Iowa game to see if Oregon just can't catch a wet football and stuff, and see if
snow globes apparently.
Yeah, exactly. The worst storm to hit Kinnick in 50 years is coming today, apparently. So
they're having the ice age in Kinnick.
It's a hurricane hitting Iowa today.
Good Lord. All right, boys. We are out of here. We will see everybody next week for week 12. And have a great weekend. Enjoy the football.
All right. See you, boys.
See you.